So, the topic that we are going to talk about today, if anybody knows this topic very well, it is Amy P. So, today I wanted to go through the framework of why it is so freaking important that you establish your correct business entity before you start credentialing and contracting your practice. Hi, I'm Amy Plano. I am the reimbursement dietitian, and I help dietitians get credentialed, build the shit out of insurance, and make the money they deserve. And that third piece, make the money you guys deserve, is next to impossible if you do not slow down to speed up. If you are one of my coaching clients or you've ever been on one of my master classes, you know that I often talk about if I had a tattoo, it would be on my forehead and I would walk around with it among dietitians and it would say, slow down to speed up. Okay. Today, I wanted to talk you guys through the 2 steps of the framework of why I think it is so freaking important for dietitians to be set up properly before they start the credentialing and contracting process with the insurance companies. And I'm going to walk you guys through the framework of time. And then I'm going to walk you guys through the second piece of that framework, which is money. So if something can go wrong in the world of insurance and private practice, it has likely not happened to me just once, but it has happened to me several times. And the first time, I like to think that I was the victim. The second time, I like to think and know I was the participant. So as somebody who has credentialed and started off with the insurance company as a sole proprietor and has moved through the business entities of a sole proprietor to an LLC to an S Corp, those things in an insurance-based practice are not things that I recommend. And the reason being, if you are not set up properly out of the gates, there will be lots of lessons to be learned, none of which are going to be good. So one of the most important things you guys can do before credentialing with the insurance companies is to make sure the business entity that you want to have is the one that you started the gates with. And what I mean by that is a lot of registered dietitians and CNSs are lazy, as was I, and you just want to get started billing insurance. So you will really just kind of go through everything as quickly as you possibly can. Some of you guys will start with your Social Security. Some of you guys may start as a sole proprietor and apply for an EIN, which is better than I did. But the reality is that if you change your business structure for whatever reason, you will likely need to start from the beginning with the insurance companies. And it's so funny, I guess it's not funny at all, is that I talk very openly about my struggles. And this is one of the things that I royally messed up. I spent a lot of time on discovery calls, and I spent a lot of time on discovery calls reiterating the fact that you need to set yourself up properly before you start billing insurance. Yet, in spite of this campaign, nobody seems to listen to me. So I want to really make sure that I'm driving home the point that you do not want to have to change your business entity because it will end up costing you time and it will end up costing you money. So let's look at the time piece. And I want to explain to you why it creates such a headache and so much extra time. So the insurance companies recognize your business by its unique tax identifier. If you did what I did improperly and you just start billing under your Social Security, that gets plastered over every single insurance claim, which if you're like somebody like me, that's hundreds of claims in your practice every single month. And that number is the way that insurance payments are tracked to you. If you have an EIN, the insurance company, that will go on your insurance claim. And then each time you file a claim, the EIN will be there. A lot of times the mistake lies when you go from a sole proprietor to an LLC. Like I said, a lot of dietitians will start off as a sole proprietor because you don't have to do anything legally. It's super easy and it allows you to jump right into billing insurances. With that being said, that is a very bad strategy if your goal is to build an empire or a practice worth having, because eventually over time you will build assets. You will want to have an LLC or an S corporation because you will have money and things to protect. So starting as a sole proprietor, unless it makes sense for you sitting down with a legal or tax-based professional, generally speaking, that is not the best way to start your practice, because if you change your EIN, the insurance companies will now recognize you as a new business. Even if you're somebody like me, when we made that change, not by choice, once and then twice, because like I said, nothing just happens once to me. I usually make the mistake several times before I learn the lesson. You will have to undergo the credentialing and contracting process from the beginning. Like I said, we're talking through the framework of time. And I practice in Connecticut. And just for example, I had to change my EIN twice, once voluntarily and once the IRS forced it. Whole other story. But from a time perspective, in Connecticut, it can take about 6 months for me to get my Blue Cross Blue Shield contract. And other insurances might go quicker, maybe 3 to 6 months, right? Before you guys freak out if you are in a scenario where you messed up and you're doing this, in the meantime, you can generally bill under your old EIN until the new one is active. But while that may seem good in theory, in my experience, there tends to be wires crossed where there should not be, right? It should be simple, okay? You change your business structure, you get a new EIN, but like I said, you generally need to start from the beginning with the credentialing and contracting process. So like level 1, even if you were at like level 20, like I was, billing hundreds of claims per month under that EIN. So once again, it seems like it should be a logical process that has some clarity. But what I've found in my experience is that even though I did my due diligence and everybody had the right new EIN, the correct NPIs for my team and my practice, we kept on hitting these roadblocks, which were mismatches of NPIs in EINs. And so I think I said this at the beginning, but you can only have one EIN on file with each insurance company under your company. So you cannot have multiple EINs existing for the same practice, which, I was a single practice with dietitians under me. So now I want to switch over so you can see how time-wise, if we do something incorrectly, because we've been told not to do it 100 times by yours truly, if you do that, right, you are going to lose a shit ton of time, because while in theory you should be billing under your old EIN, like I said, a lot of times there is a mismatch. The system is all messed up and it doesn't recognize either EIN. So that flips me over to the framework of money. So by not setting yourself up properly with the insurance companies, not only does it take a lot more time to reset everything up, it actually really ends up costing you a shit ton of money, right? Because we all know that time is money. And like in my particular case, I'm usually paying people on my team internally as employees to do all of these things, right? And so it's not just one call to the insurance companies. If you can even find the phone number to call the contracting department, it's several calls, probably 10 to 20 calls, 10 to 20 emails to the contracting department. And so I'm therefore paying people to figure out what is going wrong. In the meantime, from a money standpoint, nobody on my team is getting paid because we are on a group contract and everybody is tied to that group contract. And like I said, even though it would make sense to bill under the old EIN, a lot of times the old EIN is out of the system, but for some reason that new EIN is not in the system. And so it should be seemingly something that is easy, but it takes not only a whole bunch of time, and time is money, but it takes away time and essentially money from higher leverage opportunities, because figuring out something like your EIN, at least in my experience, which took days, you know, if you were to like look at like chronologically the amount of hours that it took, it is unproductive and non-revenue producing activities in your practice. And that means that the revenue producing activities, the ones that make the practice money, have to be backburnered because the resources are now being diverted to solving something that is such a mystery that should have been straight in the first place. So it's an inefficient uses of everyone's time, your team's time, and then essentially the insurance company's time. And like I said, in my experience from a money standpoint, there is a massive lag time in payment time. Historically, in my practice, we are super fortunate. I would say on average, like we get paid from some insurance companies like within like 48 hours. Like the most it would be 30 days, and that is super rare. With that being said, I think I went through two separate periods, several years apart, where I was not getting paid. I think in one scenario, the second time, I don't think I got paid by Blue Cross Blue Shield for like 6 or 7 months. Remember, it's not just me that I am paying, it is my entire team. And 90% of our claims are Blue Cross Blue Shield, where we're having the biggest struggle. So I really want to make sure that this video gets out to anybody who is starting a practice, anybody who is thinking about it, because I really need to reiterate, slow down to speed up. And like what is really frustrating is like dietitians get so pissed off when this happens, but I cannot tell you, I can even tell you some of the dietitians I told not to do this and they still went and did it and now they're pissed off. But what I really want to reiterate and what I really learned from this scenario is that they should really be pissed off at nobody but themselves, because what I did in the beginning was completely irresponsible. I went into business wanting to build a big giant empire like I have today on a pretty weak foundation as a sole proprietor, actually billing under my Social Security. You know what I mean? So I was super lazy. I was highly irresponsible. And I probably should have known better. So I got exactly what I signed up for, which was a flaming dumpster fire of shit. So I would highly recommend, it's like my number one rule, you have to have your business entity set up before you start the insurance credentialing and contracting process. It will save you hours. It will save you headaches. I'm telling you, it will save you brain cells, because this shit will like defy gravity. Like you will be on the phone. I can't even imagine the amount of times my team has spent trying to fix these things. It will save you your voice from screaming, you know, from going completely unhinged on these representatives when you cannot figure out for the life of you why on your 100th call this is still not fixed. It will save you delayed payments, and it will ultimately really allow you to navigate confidently, right? So it seems like something so simple, your EIN. But the reality is that if that EIN changes, the insurance companies see you as a new practice. And while that may seem simple in theory, the reality is that it will suck your time, it will suck your energy, and it will delay your payments. And what I can tell you, and I need to reiterate this piece, is that ultimately we are responsible. Okay. And so we need to do better by ourselves, which means hiring a tax professional right out of the gates. And like I said, if you do any one thing after this video, it is to slow down to speed up. Okay. It's going to cost you a couple $100, if that, to meet with a tax professional to set you up in your end all entity, right? And so even if you start off as an LLC, often if you just get taxed as an S Corp, you don't have to change your EIN. But once again, I am not an attorney, a CPA. I don't pretend to be any of those things, but I'm a legitimate operator in my practice where I've made this mistake not once, but twice. And in spite of me screaming from the top of the trees, slow down to speed up, nobody seems to be doing this. So I am doing this video and I want you guys to share it with anybody who you think could benefit. Once again, even if somebody is like on the fence for starting their private practice, like tag them in this video, because like we need to like, it's like if there's one thing that you can do correctly right out of the gates, it's setting up your business entity. So like this video, share it with somebody who you think could benefit. And if you're watching this video and you're like on the fence of starting your practice, do shit right the first time. Because like I said, you guys know I am like, I like to think I'm a warrior. And I like to think that like most shit in life does not get me down. This EIN stuff like broke me. More so from a time standpoint. Like I said, like I lost like brain cells that like I definitely needed to have. So I say this from my heart. Slow down to speed up. And if you do yourself any one favor, save up a couple $100, sit down with a tax professional, determine your business entity so you do not need to go through any of the stuff that we just talked about on this video. And subscribe, because I release information just like this every week for you guys on contemporary topics that you guys are struggling with. And I just saw this question in the public Facebook page, which is why I'm doing a video on it.